In the glamorous heart of Hollywood, where dreams are built and secrets often hide in plain sight, one tragedy sent shockwaves far beyond the city limits. It wasn't just the loss of a talented, compassionate woman, it was the disturbing way her life was stolen. This is the story of Dr. Amie Harwick, a renowned therapist, beloved friend, and vibrant force in the lives of so many, whose brutal murder not only devastated those who knew her, but also exposed the terrifying reality of intimate partner violence. Amie Harwick wasn't just another name in Hollywood. Born in Pennsylvania in 1981, she grew up with a fascination for understanding people, their struggles, their fears, and their capacity to heal. After earning her master's degree in clinical psychology and later her doctorate in human sexuality, she dedicated her career to helping others, focusing heavily on victims of sexual abuse, domestic violence, and trauma. Her practice was thriving in Los Angeles, and she quickly became a trusted voice in her field, appearing in interviews, podcasts, and panels discussing topics that were often stigmatized. Friends described her as fiercely intelligent, compassionate, and endlessly supportive. She loved live music, art, and nights out with friends, but she was also deeply private about certain parts of her life. What few knew was that Amie's past held shadows, relationships that left her feeling unsafe, even long after they ended. Her life, marked by dedication and empathy, came to a tragic end that shocked the world, leaving a void in the lives of those who knew her, and in the broader conversation around safety, trauma, and the importance of protecting vulnerable individuals in every community. Her death not only highlighted the hidden dangers many face behind closed doors, but also sparked renewed discussions about accountability, awareness, and the urgent need for stronger protections for survivors of abuse. In the early 2010s, Amie began dating Gareth Pursehouse, a photographer and software engineer. At first, the relationship seemed like any other: fun outings, romantic moments, shared interests. But over time, Amie's friends noticed troubling patterns. Pursehouse was controlling, jealous, and prone to emotional outbursts. Amie eventually ended the relationship, but according to friends, Pursehouse didn't take the breakup well. He allegedly harassed her with unwanted messages, showed up at her home uninvited, and left her feeling unsettled. In 2011 and 2012, she filed restraining orders against him, detailing incidents of stalking and threats. The court eventually let the orders expire. Amie moved on, believing she had left that chapter behind. She focused on her career, her friendships, and even her love life, briefly becoming engaged to comedian Drew Carey in 2018 before amicably ending the relationship. Life seemed back on track, but Pursehouse hadn't disappeared completely. On January 16, 2020, Amie attended an awards event in Hollywood. Among the crowd was Gareth Pursehouse. It had been years since they had last seen each other, but the tension between them reignited instantly. Witnesses say Pursehouse approached her, appearing emotional, intense, and almost desperate to engage in conversation. Friends later recalled that Amie was deeply shaken by the encounter. She told one friend that seeing him again made her uneasy, that something about his behavior didn't feel right, as though there was an underlying anger she couldn't ignore. She even mentioned that she might seek another restraining order in the coming days. What Amie didn't know was that Pursehouse's reappearance wasn't just a coincidence. Detectives would later allege that he had been watching her life from a distance, monitoring her social media, harboring resentment, and quietly waiting for the perfect opportunity to confront her again. On the night of February 14, 2020, Valentine's Day, Amie went out with friends to celebrate, enjoying what would unknowingly be her final evening. She returned home to her Hollywood Hills apartment in the early hours of February 15th, chatting briefly with her roommate before heading to her bedroom. Around 1 a.m., her roommate, who was upstairs, heard her scream. A sharp, chilling sound that cut through the quiet night. Moments later, a violent struggle erupted. Investigators believe Pursehouse had broken into the home earlier and was lying in wait, hidden in the shadows. In those terrifying moments, Amie fought back fiercely, but the confrontation ended with her being forced over the balcony and falling 3 stories. Police arrived within minutes to find her on the ground below, gravely injured and barely conscious. She was rushed to the hospital, but her injuries were catastrophic. By 3:30 a.m., Dr. Amie Harwick was pronounced dead, leaving friends and loved ones in shock and disbelief. Detectives immediately suspected foul play. Forced entry was evident, and signs of a violent altercation were everywhere. Broken furniture, scattered belongings, and injuries on Amie that pointed to a prolonged physical fight rather than an accident. The apartment told a story of desperation and rage. Surveillance footage and digital evidence quickly led police to Gareth Pursehouse. Investigators discovered patterns in his online activity and phone records that suggested premeditation. He was arrested outside his home in Playa del Rey within 48 hours of Amie's death, still carrying personal items that would later be entered as evidence. Prosecutors charged him with murder and first-degree residential burglary, alleging that he had lain in wait to ambush her with clear intent. Friends came forward, recounting Amie's fears, the chilling history of abuse she endured, and how she had recently voiced concern over seeing him again. The renewed spotlight on her expired restraining orders sparked public outrage, with many questioning why the legal system hadn't provided more lasting protection. The investigation became a focal point for broader discussions about domestic violence, systemic failures, and the urgent need for improved safety measures for survivors, ensuring that Amie's tragic story would not be forgotten and could drive meaningful change. News of Amie's death spread rapidly, not just because of the shocking circumstances, but because of the lives she had touched in both professional and personal ways. Former fiancé Drew Carey publicly mourned her, calling her a positive force who had made him a better man, and saying that she had an unmatched gift for uplifting others. Celebrities, clients, colleagues, and even strangers posted heartfelt tributes online, many sharing personal stories of how Amie's work or words had helped them through their darkest times. Her death struck a nerve, sparking conversations about how even the most vibrant, seemingly untouchable lives can be overshadowed by hidden danger. But alongside the grief came anger. Anger that domestic violence, stalking, and harassment continue to claim lives, even when victims try to take all the right steps to protect themselves. Amie's case became a rallying point for advocates, pushing for stronger protective order enforcement, better legal frameworks, and more immediate resources for those living in fear. Gareth Pursehouse pleaded not guilty, and his trial quickly became a focal point for both legal analysts and the public, drawing national attention. Prosecutors presented evidence of premeditation, including his alleged online surveillance of Amie's life and the fact that he was carrying zip ties, pepper spray, and other items at the time of his arrest, suggesting preparation, not spontaneity. The defense, however, painted a different picture, claiming the encounter had spiraled unexpectedly out of control during a heated confrontation. But the state argued this was no momentary loss of temper. It was a calculated, deliberate act fueled by years of resentment, fixation, and unresolved anger. While the legal proceedings dragged on, Amie's loved ones refused to stay silent. They continued to speak out, turning their grief into a mission. Friends organized fundraisers, awareness events, and media campaigns, ensuring her story remained visible and would never be reduced to just another tragic statistic lost in the headlines. Their persistence kept pressure on the legal system and reminded the world that Amie's case was not only about justice, it was about changing the laws and protections that might save someone else's life. And with each passing month, the demand for answers grew louder, ensuring that those responsible for her death could not hide in silence or time. Amie's death left an irreplaceable void, but her life's work continues to ripple outward. Colleagues and advocates have established initiatives in her name, focusing on mental health access, domestic violence prevention, and education around stalking and coercive control. In interviews, her friends say they choose to remember her not for how she died, but for how she lived, with purpose, kindness, and an unshakable belief in the power of healing. Every February, vigils are held in her honor. For many, it's a time to mourn, but also to recommit to the causes she championed. Her legacy stands as both an inspiration and a warning, reminding people everywhere that the fight against abuse, coercion, and violence is ongoing, and that one voice, even silenced, can still spark lasting change. And in every story told about her, there is a call to protect, to listen, and to act before it's too late, because her tragedy must not be repeated. The story of Amie Harwick is as heartbreaking as it is infuriating, a reminder that behind the glamour of Hollywood, real dangers exist, and that love turned toxic can be deadly. Her case is not just a crime story, but a call to recognize warning signs before it's too late. If you or someone you know is experiencing stalking, harassment, or domestic abuse, please reach out to a local support line or crisis center. Help is out there, and speaking up could save a life. You are not alone, and your safety matters. And if you found this story important, take a moment to like this video, share it so others can hear Amie's story, and subscribe for more in-depth true crime cases. Together, spreading awareness is one of the most powerful tools we have, and it might just be the action that prevents another tragedy. Every share, every conversation can make a difference.